So let's get the little graphic up to make things real, make things authentic. There we are. There's the two boys on the scales getting ready to rumble. I think that was before the first fight, obviously. So Smido, you're with us. You're our guest of honour. Last time Joshua went into a rematch, he won clearly. But that was against the 300-pound fat mess, old Ruiz, who'd spent all the training camp, well, enhancing his waistline portfolio and his bank balance more than anything else. Joshua was able to stand off in Saudi Arabia, box from range effectively. But this is Usyk, Smido. He's an experienced professional. He's bulking up a little bit, looks a bit bigger, putting on muscle for the rematch. But his team are going to let it get to a point, I think. Once the weight gain starts to affect his performance, they'll scale it back. They'll have everything on point. I struggle to see beyond Usyk in this one. Tell me why I'm wrong, Smido, in this rematch, Joshua against Usyk in the Red Sea.
Wellings, you're not wrong. You're 100% right. I mean, I'm struggling to see past Usyk as well. I just think it's quite straightforward to me. That Usyk, he's done it the first time. I don't see the improvements that AJ can make to turn it around in the next fight. I think that Usyk could have stopped him late on in the last fight. I think he will stop him in this fight. And where you've got Usyk, I think the two fighters are going in different directions. Usyk is growing into the weight. You've alluded to the pictures we've seen where he's looking bigger and the stronger. And I think Joshua's going the other way. He's scrambling around for a different team or different makeup of the team and the process, this and this, that, and the other. And I just think he's going the other way. The thing with Anthony Joshua is, and we've obviously discussed that name for hours on end on this podcast. He's just not that good, and he's never been that good. And most people on this podcast, including myself, have called that out for some time. It's not particularly a problem that he isn't as good as Tyson Fury now or the greats that have gone by in the past. I'm not even going to mention the names. He doesn't deserve to be alongside those names. It's no problem that he's not as good as them. He's been in some entertaining fights. They've been quite opportunistic with his career at times. And they can safely stand there with a straight face and say that he has got probably the best resume at heavyweight at the moment with the people he's taken on. But he's come up against a different animal in Usyk compared to all the other fighters that he's fought, and he was soundly beaten last time. And I think he'll be soundly beaten again this Saturday. The utter madness of the DAZN and Sky situation for this fight, I can't even explain how much of a bad business decision that is going to turn out to be, because this time next week Joshua is going to have lost back-to-back fights and DAZN have made him a fucking shareholder, even though this fight, which is obviously the biggest of his career, because his career in my mind could effectively be over as and when he's knocked out at the weekend. None of that makes sense to me, but we're not really here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what happens in the ring. The first fight, the odds have basically flipped from the first fight. So going into this fight, we've got Usyk's in there at about 4-7 currently. Joshua's 13-8 top price. I think as the week goes on and we get closer to fight night, as usually happens when the hype builds, the man on the street gets his money on the British fighter. They'll see that Joshua's odds against. They'll buy into this ridiculous narrative that they can change, that they got the tactics wrong last time, and one of the best boxing coaches the UK's ever had. They've basically blamed him and used that the game plan. They haven't named him by name, but McCracken, but they've used the game plan quote as the fault last time. I think that they'll get behind Joshua, and I can see that by the end of the week, my money's going to be on Usyk at a good price, a better price than he is now, and that's going to be thanks to the idiot man on the street that is prepared to back him.
Give us a prediction then, Smido. Finally, nuts and bolts.
Yeah, I think Usyk's going to stop him. He's going to box rings around him like he boxes rings around most people who he comes against, and I think that Usyk will win by stoppage this time. I think in the back of his mind, he's going to think he might have to with the setup of the promotion, and you don't need me to be getting into the judges, but Usyk to win by stoppage is 9-4, and I hope that will be a bigger price by the end of the week, and that's where my money will be going.
Give us a round. What round?
Oh, I don't normally do rounds.
Go on.
7.
Round 7. They are. Smido has spoken.
If
you agree with him.
Just on the betting aspect of that, just a couple other points on there, Smid, the way you're thinking there. Like, so people know, like, Usyk by decision is just slightly less odds on the app I'm looking at right now than Usyk than KO, TKO, DQ. I'm at plus 200, plus 170. They're really split on that. Slightly behind that, though, is Joshua by KO, TKO, DQ, plus 250 on that one. And what's really interesting to me is usually when you have fights where they have a really deep over under, you have way more weight on the decision, the overside of things, and it's at 10.5 with minus 130 and dead even money on the under. So over minus 130, dead even money on the under. So they're really split and thinking that this is going to be something of a possible late stoppage. So it's very it's very interesting on this one. This one, it seems like they're thinking it's going to be interesting late, but they can't decide how.
Yeah, you've everything you've said there is right. To be honest, but yeah, I mean, if you do fancy the robbery, you can get Joshua at 8-1 to win to win on points. But I just can't say. Sometimes rematches come around, and I know it sounds very simplistic, but I don't see what can happen or what could have happened in between the last fight and this fight, whether that be training, sparring, trainer, fucking diet, whatever. I don't see what could have happened to Anthony Joshua that means he can win the rematch of this fight. I just don't see it.
Shout out to Joe Thackeray, throwing in a 179. Thank you very much for that, Joe. Amit Sharma says AJ by matchroom decision, unfortunately. So what are we thinking then, Matty? Let's have a look at this then. If Joshua can sustain some success, close stronger than last time, he could definitely win on points. As Amit says, the deck's going to be stacked in his favour. Make no mistake about that. We all know that. But I struggle to see how he can last the distance fighting at a hard pace if that's what he has to do. Being more aggressive and powerful, it's going to lead to success early on, but it's going to deplete that gas tank. And as the fight closes out this time, Usyk ain't going to piss about no more. That white tail that was hovering at ringside, it's coming in. Usyk's going for the kill. He ain't going to leave it to chance. Joshua has to be more aggressive. He has to throw more punches. He has to put it in Usyk's face. But I just don't see, unless he gets him out early, that's going to be a sustainable strategy long term.
I think if you're looking at it, I was thinking that if you're looking stoppage, you got to look AJ maybe early on this one. But with Usyk putting on this weight, Steve, I'm starting to think that Smitto might be right as far as when Usyk might get the stoppage if it comes. Because if Usyk comes in hard and fast, and the fight goes long, I'm thinking he could be huffing and puffing late too. And that's when those rounds come on, where you can choose them and you give the judges a chance to go for your opponent. So this one could be interesting in that it might be a real shootout early. And if it's Usyk that's going for the shootout early, I have a really strange feeling that Joshua might actually close it out late by not blowing out his gas tank and being responsible and picking his moments. And I think that's a big thing that Garcia is going to be working on is pick your moments. Throw 40 punches around, but throw them in 5 bursts of 8 and maybe pepper a few other jabs in here and there. I think that's going to be the game plan for AJ. And I'm not going to give a pick yet because I'm curious where you guys are going to go. And I got to hedge myself a little bit to catch up on you bastards. But it's God, I think this fight's more interesting than you want to make it out to be.
Cal Ched says Joshua as the gas tank of a reliant Robin. The presence of Robert Garcia in the corner, though, Matty, just quickly, you mentioned that's interesting. He's not been on board for that long. He's never trained a heavyweight before. He's a good coach, but what new tricks can he teach an old dog like AJ? And also, on Usyk's bulking up, I mean, are we saying he's on the juice here or what? Don't want to cast any aspersions, but he's looking big.
He is, and I kind of do. You remember when Eddie Chambers moved down to cruiserweight?
Yeah,
and he lost that advantage of speed.
mm-hmm.
I think Usyk's making that same mistake in his play. I think his incredible advantage in this fight is that he's a small, fast heavyweight.
He's not small though, is he?
He's smallish compared to this generation
3 inches.
of heavyweights.
He's 3 inches shorter than Joshua.
That matters though when you're looking at it. Also,
it didn't matter in the first fight.
Well, no, but I mean, if you're talking like in this age of giants, like I'm just saying that he is a small heavyweight in this age of giants. You got AJ Fury and Deontay Wilder is probably what you'd say the 3 primary champions previous to Usyk lifting that belt, and AJ is the smallest of them. So by today's standards, Usyk is a small heavyweight. And I think that his advantage against all 3 of those guys is from that speed. And I think bulking up might be a might be a mistake. He didn't need it in the first fight. Why switch that up? He didn't need it.
No, I actually agree with that too. Andy, size matters, as we all know. Joshua, he's got to be active, got to throw more punches. The jab as well, up, down, head, body, keep Usyk guessing. Talking about the size advantages and reach advantages, I want to see a tall upright, AJ. I know that's the old Eastern European style, they say tall and stiff, but I think he diminishes his size sometimes. He crouches in, especially in the first fight. You go back and watch the first fight. He crouches in a lot, AJ, like hunches his body over, down to Usyk's level, and then effectively negates the size advantages himself.
Yeah, maybe puts himself off balance a little bit as well, isn't it? Maybe it kind of ties his feet up as well. I think Joshua's one of those fighters where he's got to be, he's got to set his feet really to get his shots off. For what I've been seeing some of the training videos, it seems to be that he's, as Matty was mentioning, like those combinations. I don't know if he can throw the 5-punch combos that Matty was mentioning, but certainly they're working on the jab, right hand, left hook to the body. Whether I think Josh was going to have the main issue here is for me is he slimmed down a wee bit. I think even Andre Ward mentioned it as well, that where is he at here mentally? Where is he at here stylistically as well? Who's he listening to in the corner? Because there was how many people were actually in that corner in the first fight doing some talking. Could be the same in this fight. Who's he listening to? What about the muscle mass? For what I understand for Usyk, he's been in Dubai for the best part of 12 weeks. Really been laying it on sparring partners for what I've been hearing. There's a big, there's either a Kazakh or a Uzbek just no recently turned pro. Big dude. He's claiming he's been getting it tough off him as well. No hurting them as such, but he's been laying the heat on them. He is geared up. I really believe. Igis Klimas was mentioning something like thousands and thousands of miles on the bike, swimming. I think he's clocking something like just over 4 minutes 40 seconds doing that underwater breathing technique.
But has he run backwards through the desert in combat boots, Andy? Has he run backward through the desert in combat boots?
What does it matter? He's in Dubai. He's been in Dubai for 12 weeks. He is acclimated. I think it's 36 degrees. I think Ben was staying there in Jeddah just now. I don't know what it is in Dubai, whatever area in Dubai it is, but it'll be similar.
Well, and a lot of the fighters are getting there late. I mean, a lot of on this card, I think the guys like, geez, getting there a week beforehand. Well, I don't know.
Usyk started off, I believe, in Romania, right, and then they moved it to Dubai 2 months ago. Joshua, I don't know if he's moved out there yet, where he's training as such, where he's been training, but I think Usyk acclimation, mentality. I mean, you remember as well, the guy's a different mentality to most champions. You got to admit that. I think he'll be banging the mood, put on a statement. I will always believe, and they say that themselves, that they held him back. Rumour was at breakfast time the following morning when Usyk gave Joshua a nod at breakfast, fucking Anthony bit on the fucking, on the nod, because that's what he was doing. He was biting on all the feints that Usyk was giving him, struggling with the movement. Okay, you can mention the cut, maybe the scar tissue might be a wee problem. I don't suspect it will. They can mention that Joshua wants to kind of start fast, put the pressure on Usyk. I think that might fall into Usyk's hands if he steps back. He can maybe hurt his edge up the middle with an uppercut, work the body. I think it's set up potentially for Usyk to win by late stoppage. I agree with you, Steve. I don't think he wants to leave the chance. I said it to you guys as well months ago that this being in Saudi, Eddie being heavily invested, would they try and fuck him over? I don't know. But I think he can't leave it a chance. He's got to try and find the knockout.
Got to, Andy.
He's got to. I think he will do it late. He'll just work on it. Again, the first round it'll be like null and void for Usyk. I think unless Joshua starts fast and tries to put it on him right for the first go, I can see Usyk maybe just kind of probing, dancing around about, moving about the ring, just to see what Joshua's going to provide, anything different. And then I think after round 2 and 3, we'll start to see the pattern that he's set, and he'll start upping the gears, upping the pace, and then providing, again, okay, it's a heavyweight fight, providing he doesn't get caught or anything, I can see him stopping him late, just purely on work rate, the size of the guy in that as well. I think he's built to try and end this fight, so I'm going to say he does it by around about round 10, I think. I said the stoppage last time, actually, I'm going for it again, because he almost had it the first fight as well. And I say he had AJ blown at his arse badly, biting on every feint, ready to go. So yeah, I think it's set up for this one. And then, remember, this isn't a air conditioned arena, I believe, as well. This is outside, I believe, is it not?
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's the Superdome or something, Andy. He's going to have to get that knockout and get out of Dodge like Lucas Brown in Chechnya, man, because if he ain't careful, they're going to book him into the Red Sea and he's going to be fucking swimming all the way to Djibouti. So, Alexander, you better get out of there.
Yeah, true, mate. I just think a couple of variables with AJ. Mentality, he knows he can be hurt. He knows he can be rocked. It's what he does. He doesn't know what to do when he gets rocked. He's got to get on the back on the jab. He's got to grapple. He's got to hold. He's got to fucking stop himself from getting involved in a firefight. That's when he gets caught out, like I did against Ruiz. One shot I'm really looking to see for Joshua really is to see how he works and operates as his left hook. That is going to be his money punch if he's going to do anything in this fight, I believe, because they're Mexican boxing, Garcia, that type of thing, but they seem to be working heavily on that left hook. Even if it's not hitting the body, maybe it's hitting Usyk's lead hand, which would be jab hand. If it starts hurting the hand, brings the hand in, it might tell sometime later on in the fight. But again, is he going to be in position to land it often enough? That is the other thing as well. And the tank is always a question. Mentality, as I say, is style. This change in trainers is a wee bit of a concern for me. Well, maybe it comes good, who knows? And again, he's a moving target. Hasn't really got good head movement. He's kind of stiff up body, and this is the gas tank. So yeah, I think Usyk could do it. As I say, Usyk's acclimated. He's been there for months now, so I think he'll be good to go.
Michael Thompson's thrown in a £2. He says Usyk wanting to buy the rights shows confidence. Shout out to Michael for his £2. He's in the Patreon, but these are the levels he's appearing at. He's thrown in a £2 as well. A Wakari, shout out to him, her, they, them. Haven't seen him in a while, if indeed before. $8.99 from Mr. Wakari. Thank you very much for that. So Kevin threw something into the Nutters chat earlier. I'm going to read it out. Hopefully coherently as I can. Kevin says, just rewatched Usyk Joshua for the first time. I don't hold much hope for AJ in the second. His jab is bloody pathetic. If anyone can watch that and find a jab that actually lands, please point it out. He uses it as a rangefinder with no right hand behind it, and never once does he try and push into his face. It was making me angry with the cunt. I'm like, surely he's going to step in with it at least once. If AJ has a chance to win, continues Kevin, he has to straighten that jab, let that right hand go and punch with Usyk. Boxing him will lead to the same result, possibly worse. Has to go early or he'll get eaten up down the stretch, as the doctor would say. Get Seb on tonight for a jab masterclass. No Seb, unfortunately, but we do have Ozzy Smith throwing in his 2 pence worth. Ozzy, Smido was saying there in the chat, 115, 113, 116, 112 scores. Maybe a little bit too close for comfort, I suppose, with home cooking. You can see by the time they got to the 8th round, the fight was relatively close. Usyk pulled away down the stretch. Home cooking's going to be the case. Same in Saudi Arabia. As I said, Usyk's going to leave nothing to chance because of these cards, Ozzy.
I agree. I don't think it's going to go the distance. I watched the fight back, actually, and the cards were terrible. I wouldn't say it was an easy fight for Usyk, but look, he had his own way a hell of a lot of the time, and the way he tagged Joshua at times was just with ease, and there was nothing, like spectacular in what he was doing. It was just basic stuff, and Joshua couldn't, the game plan was all wrong. And I've said already, look, the changes in going into this, I think there's been a big deal about, Usyk, oh yeah, he's got, the weight of the country on his shoulders. There's a war going on. He fucked his country off and left. So I think that shows where his mentality's at. He's here to win, and he's not letting any outside influences affect him. Anthony Joshua has fired his trainer, who he's been with all of his career, by the way, not just as a pro, but amateur as well, because he's always been at that Olympic setup with Rob McCracken. He's moved his base. He's brought in Robert Garcia, who he's never worked with before, which is fine. Yes, they've been doing some work pre-announcement, but still, it takes time. They've not had a fight, doing this. So it's all right in the gym, but sometimes it can take fighters a little while to acclimatise, to a new trainer. Usyk has put some weight on. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it'll be interesting to see what he's at, but I don't think he'll put on too much weight from where it will affect his, performance, where he'll lose skills, his speed. I think he knows he can get him out of there. That round 12, if there was another 30 seconds on the clock, Joshua would have been stopped. He was done. Now, what is Joshua going to do? He can't outbox him, And the only way he can rely basically on that gas tank is by not doing too much, because he's another one. Like Ben, he blows up down the back end of the fight. In the championship rounds, he gasses, he fatigues. And once he fatigues, he's a sitting duck because he's not got the legs to move around. He's got a fairly static head, actually, and he does get hit. It's not the first time we've seen him get tagged by shots before. And I think Povetkin early on in that fight landed some big shots. I think he broke his nose, didn't he? It might have been a head clash, but he definitely landed a couple of big shots.
He did
as
with
well.
a combo, was he? I think,
It was, yeah. And
He
Joshua
had some
didn't see
good
it coming.
moves, though. Povetkin always had some good moves. I mean, the white knockout.
Yeah,
he had some moves.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying that, Joshua is a very hittable target. He's. I can't see what he can do and what he's learned. Like people say, oh, yeah, he needs to use his size. Well, yeah, it's all right saying that, but what are you going to do with it? Like you could put a 400-pound man in, with like a fighter. Just because he's bigger than him, it doesn't mean, like you need to be able to use that size. Tyson Fury is a prime example of how to utilize size in the ring. Leans on people, bullies people, makes it difficult. I just don't see Joshua doing that. I think Usyk's too cute for him. I think the break, bulking on weight, I think he's doing that for a reason. And I see the fight finishing not early, but I think midway, probably around 7 or 8. I think it'll be done and dusted then. I think Usyk will time his shots, similar to what Andy Ruiz did. He timed his shots, and they'll be the damaging ones. We know Joshua can get hurt. Joshua knows he can get hurt as well. And I don't think he likes it. And he had no choice but to take this fight. He's got this huge deal with DAZN, which, I mean, it's just laughable, really. Laughable. DAZN have signed a fighter up to this record deal. If he gets chinned on Saturday, his stock depletes immediately. I don't care what anybody says, it does. He's lost back-to-back fights. It doesn't matter who it's against. And, in the manner it was, I mean, let's have it right. The first time he got beat, we ended up talking about the judges' cards, not the fantastic performance of Oleksandr Usyk. If he gets chinned now, where does he go back to? Apart from the fact he'll be walking around with wheelbarrows full of cash from DAZN, fighting probably the likes of Dillian White again. I can't see any way Joshua wins personally. I think he's, I'm not saying he was always overhyped, but I was one of them that said he's not as good as people make out. They bang on about his resume. Yeah, he's been relatively active and he's boxed people, but is there anybody on there that I wouldn't back, like a Fury, a Wilder, or an Usyk to beat? No. I don't care about wins against Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, stuff like that. Alexander Povetkin, but was old at the time, a faded guy, not fussed about stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to it, but I only see one winner, just from the manner of the first fight. And Usyk said he stuck to a game plan, and he can box to a game plan. He's the master of that, and I think their game plan will be they're going to be more aggressive. They're going to hurt. I think if he hurts Joshua early as well, I think he'll go in for the kill. I don't think there'll be no carrying him, waiting type of stuff. I think he'll pounce on him, and I think he'll chin him. And Joshua's not the best, when he's hurt. He has this, like this grin, he smiles, and he's hurt when he smiles. He's buzzed big time. And when he's buzzed, he's a big target to hit, and he doesn't cover up the best. Like when, I think, referring back to the Vladimir Klitschko fight, was it round 5 where he dropped Klitschko, but essentially but then lost the round?
No, did he not drop? Did he drop Klitschko in the 4th, and then Klitschko dropped him in the 5th?
Is that what it was? Yes, is that what it was? Yeah,
it was back-to-back rounds, whatever it was.
Yeah. So say it was the 4th. So he dropped him early, but then actually got hit again by a timed shot to hook to the temple. But then was just a sitting duck, through legs had gone, they'd stiffened. He was blowing out of his backside. He was shattered. And I just don't see, it's going to be, I'll be really intrigued to see what weight he comes in at. Really intrigued. He's the one who's making the changes. Usyk isn't. And I just think all roads point to an Usyk win. But I think it'll be in devastating fashion, this one.
Yeah, good stuff, Ozzy. We will go around the panel shortly and get their exact prediction so Matty can write it in the prediction league. Joe Burns has thrown in 179. He says, hope you're well, lads. Be listening in morning at Graph. Thank you very much, Joe Burns, for your contribution. Rapping Rob Kelly's on the call with us. Rob, Ozzy was mentioning the whole DAZN deal, which we've mentioned ourselves in the past and discussed. It is very strange the way they did it. I heard it mentioned during the week. I think it was Juice Ranger Rollins said, which kind of makes sense. The whole DAZN thing, announcement, AJ being a shareholder, was a political move to try and put a spanner in the works with the Saudis linking up with Sky Sports, etc. I suppose that's the most plausible explanation I've heard regarding that situation.
Well, according to anyone that I've spoken to, which is not fucking many people within boxing, are normally us or someone we know, but they reckon the Saudis love AJ, don't they? Like, so they've hosted him well previously. He had his rematch against, to quote Ozzy, fat as a pig, Andy Ruiz out in Saudi, and that's making it all a little bit spooky for me from Usyk's point of view, because I've said this before: 99 times out of 100, Usyk will beat Joshua. 100 times out of 100, I think if they fight, Usyk can beat Joshua. I just don't think Joshua has the style to beat Usyk. But there's a couple of creepy factors I don't know, like the fact that Joshua's been working with Garcia longer than he's announced. That, according to all sources, they've been working behind the scenes since he first went to America, which is, a bit of Sun Tzu out of war. AJ loves a good Sun Tzu quote. He's forever fucking quoting Sun Tzu. Is Anthony Joshua, like, you know what I mean? There's genius in silence. What a freak. But yeah, I don't know. I think if it goes to the cards, Usyk might be in trouble. There's a lot of people that have invested a lot of money into Anthony Joshua's career, and it's not going to be good for them. Mainly the shareholders in DAZN. If he doesn't fucking win this fight, man, how is Eddie going to go back and say we're going to market him now as a pay-per-view star if he loses? They needed a winnable fight for him before to kick that deal into play, surely. And it's a strange deal for DAZN to make for a guy whose career is on this trajectory, if you get me. Like, it's, we fucking surely need to see AJ back to win the rematch before you make multi-million-dollar offers for him. Like, before we'd heard before that he was going to stay at Sky for life. Well, he's with Sky at the moment through no fault of his own for this fight. But in terms of the fight I think Oz made a good point about what AJ looks like when he got hit, and I alluded to this last week. I feel like we've been previewing this fight for fucking 6 months because there's been nothing else on, and it's finally here. I said before, I think AJ can make adjustments with Garcia offensively. I definitely think he can make subtle changes to him to make him into a better fighter. Is he going to be able to make him into a fighter that can beat Usyk? I don't think so. I think Usyk can adjust too well on the fly. And even if AJ starts off with a game plan, once Usyk has a look at him and start working him out and figuring him out, he'll just start pot-shotting him. And Oz is onto something there, and I said this before as well. You can change whatever you want about AJ. You can get his hands held high, you can get him pumping the jab, you can get him slipping side to side, you can get him to be more offensive, you can get him to work the clinch more. But what you can't fucking do with him is get him a gas tank and change how he reacts when he gets hit. Now, they did that with Tommy Hearns over the years. You look at Manny did that over Tommy when in the first fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. Hearns is all over the place, and if he had learned to hold against Leonard, he probably would have won that fight, and history would have been different. But I don't know if you can do that with AJ. He's shown 3, 4, 5 different times over his career. Once he gets tagged, as I said, he has a tail. He starts smiling. He'll start talking to the opponent. But more often than not, when he gets really clipped, he'll turn his back on his opponent. He turns his head away, he drops his hands, he sit on the ropes, he look to the ref, he look to the corner. And what's going to happen when he's in the thick of it in the heat in Dubai in fucking against a bulked up Usyk? Usyk is not going to be able to find him, if you get me. It's not like he's going to have trouble finding him. He will get to him at some stage. He will pop him. He will tag him. He will make him tired. And how is AJ going to react to getting hit? That's been different to what anything else he's done earlier in his career. So I think it'll be a slow start from both. Both will have a look at each other. I don't think Usyk will be in any particular hurry to go out and start trying to look for a stoppage or anything. I think it'll come when it comes, and I think it'll come probably around the last third of the fight. But I do think Usyk will stop him. And then where the fuck do we go from there? I do not know. But let us get to next Saturday and we'll see. But yeah, I was strong leanings towards Usyk in this fight. If AJ does knock him out, I'd have to give him credit. Hearn is talking about he should be acknowledged as a great if he beats Usyk. I would say if he beats Usyk, this is the first live dog he's ever beaten in his prime.
Big win, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first live dog he's ever beaten in his prime, and you'd have to give him credit for that. I don't know if that makes him a great, but like I said, I do think there's only one winner in this fight. It's going to be Usyk.
Can I trouble you for a round, Rob, please?
Yeah, I'm thinking around round 9, somewhere around
Round
round 9, 10.
Yeah, I'm going for round 9 as well. You're going round 10, aren't you, Smidge? Yeah?
I'm round 7. I think only Live Dog in his prime's a little bit harsh from Rob Kelly there.
Who is
Who
it?
are the other ones? I wait for you there. You can give me 180 of them.
No, they might, they might have been in their prime, but they weren't very good. I think there's a little bit different. I think
Well, then they're not a live dog, Smid.
Parker, maybe, Smid?
that's Parker was the first name that come to mind for me. Ruiz the first time, but obviously he got beat by him. I mean, there ain't many, but I think that that was slightly unfair.
Yeah, I think a difference between live prime and live dog. That's fair enough. Matty is still making up his mind. Ozzy, did you give us a round again for your stoppage prediction, please?
8.
8 for Ozzy. Yeah, we're all going with the stoppage by the looks of it then, Andy. You're going stoppage as well. Any round kind of trouble?
Yeah, about round 10, 11, mate.
Round 10 or 11 for Andy. And Matty, you've deliberated long enough. Go on then. Are you going to be the divergent voice on the panel here? You're going for Joshua? Go on, Matty.
Matty's cashing his life insurance for this fight, man.
I
He's
feel,
going
like,
parlay up the
I
central.
feel like I have to. And I honestly think, like, just from a betting perspective, I think the smartest bet to probably make on this one is the under 10.5 rounds at even money. I think that takes out a little bit of the variables in this one because it's heavyweight boxing. And like I harp on, it is the theater of the unexpected. It's a different story with guys of this size. And everything logical says that Usyk should beat him. You guys think he's going to stop him, and that's just, it's, like I said, the books are kind of the toss up between the stoppage.
Get on with it.
And
Just see you're picking Joshua, for fuck's sake.
and
Come
the
on.
points. And I just look, I just
Yes.
have the bulking up is a mistake. It's an absolute mistake.
I think you're right on that.
And if Usyk doesn't get him out, and if AJ doesn't do something stupid and throw too many punches early, if he fights measured like he needs to and throws the right punches to give Usyk troubles. Don't throw the jab when he's got his shoulder to you. Throw the jab when he turns the corner on you and take the left hand out of play, and also give yourself a chance to injure that shoulder. Instead of jamming it in, you work on separating it out. Throw that hard jab at the shoulder when he turns the corner on you. Make that a key point. But if Usyk doesn't have him out of there by the 7th and AJ fights measured, he's fucked. AJ stoppage.
What round? What? Give us a round then. Sorry, 7th. Did you say
10?
10. Right. Okay. Matty's gone against everyone else, but that's good. That's what we like to hear.